Rolling.
Hello, listeners. This is Howard Mandel, and welcome to the Introducing Jazz Journalism Now, the first of what the JJA expects to be regularly scheduled online forums, workshops, webinars, podcasts, maybe conferences, and courses. The JJA being the Jazz Journalists Association, of course, of which I'm president, and I'm also a blogger, a freelance writer. I'm the author of a couple books. I'm an arts reporter for National Public Radio. I'm an adjunct at New York University. I'm going to be your moderator. Joanne Cable is here too. She's the web administrator and media director of the Jazz Journalists Association. She's doing the behind-the-scenes work. And I must say that GoToWebinar is good, but not perfect, and we may have some glitches if this happens with the sound. I hope you'll be patient. We're happy to see your response to us. You can type into the chat box, which you ought to be able to see in what we call the GoToWebinar control panel, or the widget. We cannot hear your questions. We can't hear you no matter how loudly you scream at us, but if you put a note into the chat box here, I'll see it and pass that along to the other panelists. The panelists that we're very proud to have here today are Patrick Jarenwattananon, who is Blogger Supreme at A Blog Supreme on NPR Music.
Hello, everyone.
And Matt Kassel, who is a freelance writer, beginning to make his way well through the jazz journalist's minefield. And we're hoping for Dan Morgenstern, who's been a little delayed because of the weather, but I think he will be chiming in presently. So as I say, here we are at GoToWebinar.com. You'll see the widget, look for the chat bar, open it up. Our format is that each of our panelists speak briefly, informally. You can pose questions if they do so. I'll probably wait until we're all done before we start something that's really substantive in terms of the question and answer. And if the sound goes bad for you, like I say, write it in the chat box. It may be on your end, though, and really if there's no solution at hand, I suggest you log out and then log back in again using the same link that you received from GoToWebinar to begin with. So let me also say that the JJ is a nonprofit organization, and we would love it if you would go on our Facebook page and follow us there, and look at jjnews.org, which is the public face of the JJA. We also have a members website. Subscribe to our RSS feed, watch for updates, join the JJA. I'll pitch all this again later. We really want new members who are committed to using media to build new jazz audiences, to document, to discuss, to disseminate news and views about jazz in all media available. And to that end, here we have Patrick Jarenwattananon to talk about what he's been doing on a Blog Supreme. Patrick, take it away.
Thanks, Howard. Well, like Howard said, my name is Patrick Jarenwattananon. I work for NPR Music in Washington, D.C., where I like to describe my job to most people who I would meet at a cocktail party or whatever as I listen to music and make it into the internet. One of my primary responsibilities is to run NPR's BlogSupreme, which is our jazz blog, but I end up being the point person for many things jazz and online. And occasionally delve into some radio stuff as well. So if we could go to my screen, I could take you through a little tour. Thanks, Joanne. I realized that I forgot to send them a headshot, you guys a headshot, so here
Whoops.
I am. Whoops, were you there yet?
We should be, but
Yes.
it looks like, are you seeing Patrick's screen?
I am.
Okay, great.
Okay, so here I am. Enough about who I am and what I look like. NPR Music is a online music destination, I guess you could say. We are a part of NPR, the company, but we have a little bit of autonomy to do some interesting digital experiments that are converged with the radio presentation as well. We work with a number of NPR member stations to help us get there, and we partner with lots of independent folks, whether freelance contributors or other organizations, to help us sort of explore what NPR can be in the digital universe. So if you go to nprmusic.org or npr.org/music, you'll get a screen like this. As you can see, we offer both sort of journalism and also discovery. Perhaps you've seen the program or podcast, All Songs Considered, one of our chief products that we put forth into the world. And we also offer concert recordings and broadcasts, something which we'll talk about soon. We've been exploring multimedia, especially video recently, and going to unconventional locations and doing shoots. If you see down here, this video from Deer Tick, which is a band, is the most recent to go up, and that was filmed at the Sasquatch Music Festival out in rural Washington State. And we also host things, perhaps you've seen the Tiny Desk Concert, which is just usually an acoustic performance that happens in our very office. As for what we do in jazz there, well, we just have an aggregation of all our jazz things. That includes supporting what the shows do. So this is one of the lead story right now was a story that aired on Fresh Air, is a review of the new Robbie Coltrane record. We also, help shows to produce or at least just create for web interviews. Like this is a Cassandra Wilson interview that aired recently, or Linda O was interviewed on Weekends on All Things Considered, and also host things such as studio recordings, performances. The program Piano Jazz would be one of them, which is now in syndicated reruns. Also host concerts. The program Jazz Set is something that we support on the web as well, another syndicated NPR program, and feature various news and journalism when we can. A BlogSupreme was created as this sort of catch-all. Not quite sure what it is yet, and we're still actually really figuring it out. I've been a little busy recently and haven't been focusing in on it this week, but we try to publish all sorts of things. It is a jazz blog. So one of the things that I've been asked to talk about is our aggregation. So I think one of the things that I do is to simply round up things that are going on and try to be a part of the conversation of jazz online, wherever it is. So every Friday I've taken to writing a column of just interesting things that have been going on, things that catch my eye, interesting writing, or videos, or other things from the archives. Last week, some old Miles Davis blindfold tests surfaced, so I decided to link to those sorts of things. It's usually not based, it usually takes more of a focus on modern or contemporary things that are going on. And it's, it's not hard to, pick out this stuff. I miss a lot, of course, but, I try to keep tabs on what's going on in social media via Twitter. I also set up various RSS feeds. This is Google Reader that I use to monitor what other blogs and other news publications are writing about. And I just try to read lots of people fairly often. We also produce you know, original journalism at a BlogSupreme, and recently we've been able to take, for the first time in a while, to take some freelance stories in. One of the other panelists submitted the most recent story. Matt Kassel is going to be talking with you shortly, and he lived in Montreal for a while, and so he asked me if he could write a profile about Oliver Jones, who most people agree is Canada's greatest living jazz musician. It's a nice long magazine-y story, but other times it takes a more webby sort of format. So we have a series called Take 5, in which we try to introduce people to other aspects of jazz. In this case, I asked the bassist Matt Kassel to come up with a list. Matt Kassel is based in Chicago and put out a fabulous re-recording called By a Little Light. And it has a string section attached, and it has some vocalists, and it is what you might call chamber jazz. And so I asked him to name some things which he was inspired by. So, you know, we have this a great team of developers behind us, and we were able to come up with this sort of list presentation. So his introduction, and you know, the list and blurb, and if you click this, it will pop up a little media player, and you can actually listen to the song on NPR's site-wide media player. And finally, another thing that we do at NPR Music is broadcasting and recording. So soon we'll be going to the Newport Jazz Festival in Newport, Rhode Island, which we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, I want to say. And we'll be doing a weekend-long broadcast there, video broadcast for the first time at Newport. And we've also been doing a video webcast at the Village Vanguard since 2008. We just recently celebrated our 50th episode, and this is a collaboration with WBGO. In fact, they are really the primary producers of the broadcast. It's JJA recognized broadcaster of the year Josh Jackson, who hosts and produces these shows about once a month. It's been a little less recent lately. As you can see, it really runs the gamut. It's hard to believe that the Mark Rubot Trio was let into the Village Vanguard for a gig, but we were able to document that. Also, we'd say the same for the Craig Taborn Trio gig, but also a wide range of things. The Al Foster Quartet, the Vanguard Jazz Orchestra. It was nice to get those guys, because our broadcasts are usually on Wednesdays, and they horseplay every Monday. Bill McHenry's band, Fabian Almazan's band, a recent Jerry Allen Trio hit, Tane. Lots of good stuff, and if you click on any one of these, you'll see that we are fortunate enough to have some great web developers who designed this concert experience that you can play, and it also comes with a gallery which features some original photography from John Rogers, backstage and on-stage action. So there we are with what I do mostly and what I focus on. Is there anything else that I should be talking about?
Well, we're going to get back to you, Patrick, and one thing I want to make clear, and I want to say, I think Dan Morgenstern is here. Dan, if you're here, please say something so I know it.
I'm here.
Okay, great. I'll be right with you then. Patrick has shown a unusual platform for jazz journalism, and also included presentation of music within that platform. Of course, this is the kind of thing that only somebody who's really got a institution such as NPR behind it can do. And Patrick, I'm going to ask you later to talk about when you are out surfing the web looking for stories about jazz that you're going to aggregate, what kinds of things you're seeing, what kinds of things you're interested in, what you see that you're not so interested in, and we'll kind of get into that part of it. So I think that the important thing is what journalists can do who are not working for large organizations, don't have the broadcast facility behind them and that sort of thing at the moment. But I'm going to jump back to Dan Morgenstern and ask him to talk for a moment about the early days of jazz journalism. He's been working as a jazz journalist since 1958. Multiple Grammy wins for liner notes, 2 excellent books, one of his collected writings, one called Jazz People, which is his writing set against a series of beautiful photographs. Dan has been the director of the Institute for Jazz Studies at Rutgers University, so he's deep in research. Also hosts a WBGO show called On the Archives, which demonstrates his skill as a DJ as well as his depth of knowledge of jazz. But he says at heart he remains a journalist. And Dan was a editor of Downbeat during its golden age, 1960s, early 70s. So I think he's got the overview. What do we start off with when jazz journalism was first getting developed? Is there a continuity to what's going on now, or how do you see things being different?
Well, the biggest difference, I think, is that nowadays you can do things so quickly. You know, you can communicate in seconds. When I started out, there was no internet, there was no email, there was no, there wasn't anything except the telephone. So you know, everything has speeded up tremendously. There's also much more ability to disseminate stuff and do it inexpensively. Howard, you called my years at Downbeat in the 60s, you called that the golden age. Actually, when I was doing that, to me, the golden age seemed much earlier, when the magazine was much livelier and when there was a period in jazz journalism when there were those wonderful warfares between the beboppers and the moldy figs, and you know, and there was a big fan base, you know, and people followed the bands and all that. You know, it was a time when the music was really our music. Jazz was an integral part of popular culture, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So that, I think, is the main difference. Also, one thing that hasn't changed, unfortunately, is that it's, of course, very difficult to make a living as a jazz journalist. In fact, I think the people who do that exclusively can probably be, well, they can maybe barely be counted on the fingers of both hands, but not much beyond that. I was lucky. I became an editor. That was the way that you could make a living. But most of the, you know, the prominent jazz critic like Martin Williams, who was a wonderful writer, until he, relatively late in his too short life, was employed by the Smithsonian in a jazz position, and actually the first jazz position at that institution. Had to make his living, you know, doing things like teaching English in college and you know, stuff like that.
This has not changed so much. That's right. Most jazz journalists do more than just write about jazz or just broadcast about jazz, but rather develop a whole series of skills, client base that is around their jazz interests and use their skills, although may not be specifically and like quote purely unquote for publication, for print publication, for sure.
No, the wonderful thing nowadays is that you can sort of do it yourself. You know, you can become a blogger, and you know, and that's like having your own. That's like having your own magazine, and you know, things. Jim mentioned the stuff that happens on NPR, you know, and WBGO, you know, jazz radio, the streaming of live stuff out of from clubs, and you know, you have a much more immediate connection with music today than you had in the not so good old days.
Well, that would seem to offer a lot of opportunities. But let's ask Matt Kassel what he's finding entering into the professional landscape. Matt is a fairly recent graduate of McGill University in Canada. Matt, you studied journalism, did you not there?
I didn't actually. I studied political science.
Uh-huh. And you want to talk a little bit about working with Ben Ratliff for a few weeks?
Sure. In the summer before my senior year at McGill, I was thinking about what I wanted to do that summer, the semester before that summer started, and I thought I wanted to work and do something with jazz because I loved it, and I had never really been engaged with it beyond just listening to it. So I reached out to Lewis Porter, who I didn't know at the time, but he works at as a professor at the Rutgers Newark School of Jazz, and I asked him if he knew of any opportunities. So he asked me what my interests were, and I said that I wanted to do writing. And a past student of his had studied with Ben, studied jazz criticism with Ben. And he said, if you're interested, I can connect you with him. So he did, and it was actually that easy. I studied with Ben for 10 weeks that summer, and I learned a lot from him. And ever since then, I haven't stopped working. He really helped me be very motivated in jazz journalism.
What is your motivation? Is it really purely your love of music?
It's partly my love of music and partly my desire to be a better writer. I consider myself sort of very devoted to the craft of writing, and I want to get better at it every time I write something. So when I was studying with Ben, it was partly learning about jazz and partly learning the craft of criticism.
Do you find when you're going, well, talk a little bit about some of the publications that you've been publishing in.
Sure. So I write a monthly CD review for the New York City Jazz Record. I just published that profile that Patrick showed on the BlogSupreme, and I am working my way into writing for other publications. For example, I publish semi-regularly in the Jewish Daily Forward, which is may not be very well known, but it's a respectable newspaper and with pretty established roots in New York, the New York journalism scene. But I would say that jazz is maybe not something that is very popular today. As Dan said, the golden age of jazz may be over, but I think it actually is the golden age of journalism, in that you can more easily reach out to anyone and publish your own material online. Well, anywhere, I guess, but online is the point. And I think jazz is, despite that it's not that popular, it's very respectable. So if you pitch a story to someone with either a profile of a musician or a preview of a concert or something, I think editors actually like that, like the fact that you write and know about jazz. It's something that's considered sophisticated, and it's good to take advantage of it.
So you find people are fairly open to you when you're querying, huh?
I do, yeah.
But do you query very specifically for each particular editor, or do you draw up a query that you feel like you're going to pass by several editors until you find one that takes it?
It's happened both ways. I know a few editors, so if I have a specific idea, I'll reach out to them. I mean, I'm still in the process of reaching out and finding my way, so I'm still, cold emailing people and saying, I have this idea, would you like to accept it? But most often I'm reaching out to people that I know because I feel that it helps to do that, to get more clips and, have a more ample body of work so you can show that to other people.
How do you get to know those people, the ones you say you know already? This is the question that a lot of
Sure.
wannabes say, well, how do I get started? How do I meet the people I should be talking to?
It all started out with me not knowing anyone. So, for example, Patrick is a good example. After I started my blog, which was the summer that right after I studied with Ben, Ben, I actually hadn't heard of Patrick's blog, but Ben told me about it, and my last conversation with him was, how do I go about getting into this? And he said, check out Patrick's blog. He does a good job, and he thinks that is the way, the direction, at least for breaking into it, is going. So I did, and I reached out to Patrick and asked to be included in his Friday lineup, which conferred a little bit of legitimacy on my